Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about how you should focus for success, but also diversify. So what I mean by that is, if you are breaking into the photo industry, you want to, right? You're starting out, you say, I want to be a photographer, right? I'm going to do it full time. I want this to be my living. One of the most important things, in my opinion, that you can do is become focused. Very few people are generalists in the sense that they put themselves out like that, right? A lot of times we end up doing whatever we can do, right? A client asks you to do something, you do it. You know, there's lots of little side projects you do, whatever. But if you are, let's say, going to be a food photographer, and that's what you want to do, right? You've decided, I want to shoot food. I love shooting food for whatever reason, right? Maybe because you like to cook and make it, or maybe just because you like to eat it. Maybe you just love the texture of it and the technology and the skill that it takes to get good food photos. What you want to do is create food photos. You don't want people to say, what do you do, when they look at your work? You want them to say, hey, that's Jane, the food photographer, right? Or that's Bob, the wedding photographer, right? You really want that. Because ultimately, when people really want you for the job that you care the most about, you want to make sure that you're an expert in it, right? So if you're starting out, let's say, and you're trying to build stuff up, maybe the path to food photography might be, okay, I'm going to shoot some stuff myself, put it on my Instagram, get some stuff out there. Then I'm going to try to get it on like maybe some food or cooking blogs. Then maybe my next step is maybe to go to like magazines and try to get stuff put in a magazine so I can, do that kind of stuff, food styling. Ultimately to be able to shoot, let's say, food for, commercial projects like cookbooks or for, packaging. That's like ultimately what we want to do, right? We want to build up to that level, right? So all along, you're doing everything in your business to be sure that that's what you want to do, right? You're not going to maybe turn down a job unless somehow it'll, hurt your career. If somebody asks for like a headshot or something, you can certainly do that, right? You should, do it if you need to make money. But ultimately, you want to focus. You don't want to be like, you go to a website and it's like headshots, food, celebrities, random shit on the street, my personal work, art. Those websites are generally signs of people that are either just starting and don't have a focus, or sometimes if you're very established, you can do that because you're already known as, let's say, a fashion photographer. So on your website, you list other things that you've done because it's kind of cool for people to see, hey, this is his personal work or her, her little project that she did last year. So that's what I mean by focus, right? Focus, focus, focus. We want to be a fashion photographer. We want to be a wedding photographer. We want to be a food photographer. That's what we're going to focus on. But ultimately, right? So your end goal, let's say the end goal for the food photographer that I'm giving in this example is to shoot packaging for craft. That's your goal, right? When you get there, right, and you will, right, if you stick with it, you're going to get there, right? You got to be positive. You're going to get there. You're going to be shooting the packaging for craft. Don't just sit there and say, well, now I'm a packaging photographer and I will not shoot anything else because I have now achieved my goal as packaging photographer and anything else is below me. No, now you've got success. Now use that success to spread out a bit, Maybe, you're going to now start to do some of those personal projects that are, so you shoot commercially for packaging for craft, but maybe now you want to explore like areas, let's say you're in New York, areas of the city which are culturally different than what you're used to, or maybe they're not that common, and you want to photograph those restaurants, right? Or the chefs that do that stuff, and you start spreading out and doing these other things, because ultimately, it's connected, right? So let's say that, okay, let's just go in that direction. So now I'm going to start photographing the chefs that are up and coming chefs. So maybe that's it. Maybe you decide I'm going to go to the cooking school and I'm going to photograph the up and coming chefs with their favorite dishes or whatever. Well, yeah, that's diversifying. Now you're doing portraits, right? You're changing it up a little bit. But what does that also give you? It gives you connections within your industry from a different route, right? So now maybe you're shooting packaging, right? But maybe that's one of those chefs that you photograph for the cooking school opens a restaurant. Now all of a sudden you're able to shoot the school's, not school, the restaurant's, advertising, right? Now you've spread out. Now you're doing advertising, which is still high-end work, right? So you're basically, these little things that you're doing in between are going to spread out like spider webs and grab all the little connections that you can make in your industry, right? One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of us make, including myself, is once we latch on to some of the bigger stuff, like the better jobs, we tend to get lazy, right? It's like when I reached the point where I was shooting catalogs regularly and making decent money doing it, you know, if a model came to me and was like, oh, I need a portfolio shot, you know, here's $500, you know, that amount of money just seems so little, right? It was easy for me to just be like, well, you know what, I'm not really doing that anymore. But you know what, maybe that model may have ended up, well, first of all, somewhere else in the industry, because that often happens, but maybe that model may have ended up, you know, becoming a supermodel, and now all of a sudden I was one of the first ones to shoot her, so that when, you know, they're using her for certain ads or certain things, they might actually look at my work and want to hire me because I have experience working with that model, blah, blah, blah. So you don't know, I'm not saying you should do every single job and never turn down anything, especially once you reach a certain level, but you want to keep yourself spread out, right? You get your main focus. Your main focus is let's say in my case, fashion catalog. Maybe your other focus is now portraits. Maybe it's still life. You know, maybe you start to do some still life photography that is related. Maybe I start doing a personal project about shoes, you know, and it's against fashion, right? So I'm shooting still life now. That could lead to beauty, because a lot of people, if you start looking at those credits that shoot things like beauty and stuff, also shoot still lifes of makeup. They also shoot, you know, cosmetic campaign stuff. That's all connected, right? And when you're first starting out, it's not maybe ideal for you to run out and shoot a bunch of product stuff and then shoot a bunch of fashion stuff and then because you're spreading yourself too thin. But once you've got that base, right? You've got that base. You can be like, oh, you know what? I already have money coming in, so I can spend money to produce more stuff in my portfolio. I can reach out and see people I haven't seen before. I can start shooting. You know, again, in my case, what I would do is I would always stay connected with young designers. I was always looking for brand new designers and trying to shoot for these little magazines, you know, with these new designers, because obviously big magazines didn't take new designers. Because I was hoping, you know, and that, you know, these designers might actually someday have a shop and a catalog and whatever and spread out and, you know, give me more money when they could afford it. But also, the idea there isn't so much like, oh, I'm looking for future business, but like just that I'm staying active in the industry, right? I'm being active. I'm part of the industry that feeds me on the higher level, right? I'm not just up here collecting the big paychecks and doing the big jobs. I'm doing this. And so one of the reasons to do this, and this is the part we don't like to talk about, is that if you have, let's say, 4 big clients and you're working, chances are one of those clients is probably more than half of your income, you know, and then 2 of them might be like the other, like, you know, big chunk of it, and then the 4th one might be like a little thing you do. If you lose one of those big ones, you're gonna be in a bad position. So what you wanna do is keep yourself out there, right? Keep looking for more clients, keep making connections with more people. When an art director that's with this one catalog or this one magazine that's been hiring you, this one advertising agency leaves, right? You know, hopefully they'll take you with them, right? Hopefully they'll bring you to other jobs. So maybe they'll go to a place that's maybe lower end than where they're already at. Maybe they went for a different reason, or, you know, so you might not be able to get those good clients. And the clients that you have now through this agency might be given another photographer through the new advertising art director that they bring in, right? You could definitely lose that stuff in a heartbeat. So you want to keep yourself spread out. You want to make sure that even though you're focused on doing this, that you spread out your client base. You spread out where your income's coming from. In the case of a wedding photographer, right? You might shoot weddings and you might get a lot of money to shoot weddings, but there's off seasons. Also, there's like most really high-end wedding photographers get their work through referrals, and there's going to be a gap, right? There's like a whole generation of people getting married, and then there's like a chunk of time before like their kids get married, right? So you may have like fading spots where you might not have as much word of mouth if it's, you know, depending on where you're at. But let's say that instead of just doing weddings, you also shoot family portraits and baby portraits, right? There's a good chance that people getting married might then, you know, be having babies, or, you know, want later on to have family portraits together. So you're staying connected with these people, so they're always remembering you. Not just that you shot their wedding 10 years ago, but you shot their wedding 10 years ago. Then 2 years later, you shot their baby being born. Then you shot that baby's pictures all the way up through the last several years. Every year you've got this like running documentary of them, and that's something that they remember, and it's something that you're doing besides being a wedding photographer. And then when their friends are looking at the cool family portraits and they're like, oh, who took that? Oh, blah, blah, blah. They also shot my wedding, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, you're getting more wedding clients. So everything is interconnected, right? There's kind of like this high tier, I think, that we all want to go for. You want to shoot this, right? But if you look at the roads that it takes to get up this mountain, right? So you're already, reaching towards the top of the mountain, right? So once you're there, it's so much easier to look around and see all the roads. When you're at the bottom, you can't really see much, and you're just trying to figure your way out. Once you're at the top or a good distance up, you can see all these other paths. And those paths, even though it might seem like they're going down on some level, they can lead through valleys into other mountains. So you want to kind of keep that diversity going on. And you may actually find that you might completely change what you do. I know plenty of people that were doing one thing completely, like a good friend of mine was a stylist who then became a makeup artist who is now a photographer, So because she kept working and doing different things and enjoying different parts of it and spreading herself out, and basically, yeah, she'll still style stuff if somebody hires her to do it, and she can still do makeup, but now she's also a photographer. So she's got, many avenues that she can pursue. So hopefully this was helpful and made some sense. Let me know how you guys are doing. Are you already kind of at the place where you're doing the things you like the best? Do you only do one thing? Are you super general? Are you just starting out? Like, what do you want to do? What's your path? Do you have a game plan? Because even if you don't know all the steps to get there, you should at least look forward and say, this is where I want to be. Like if you could do any project right now, what would it be? And then backtrack it to what are the steps to get there from where I'm at. That's basically the way to do it. So let me know, guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell. Leave some comments, of course, below, and I'll see you next time.